for him. And as for myself, I want to just say that I'm feeling really happy to be back on the Bima again. This is my first time with you together for Shabbat services since I returned from India last week. It's really terrific to be back with you to pray and to hear the sounds of Jewish song together in this, our spiritual home. For those of you that I haven't chatted with about my trip, I was there for about a week and a half for a terrific opportunity to explore the history and the culture of the Indian Jewish community. And I'll have more opportunities over the coming weeks to share with you some of the things that I learned. So tonight I'll ask your indulgence for me to just share a couple of lightly organized impressions that I had from my time there. It was a really remarkable trip, though it was quite taxing both physically and emotionally. But I learned a lot. I came back with a very strong appreciation for the small pieces of a very large country that I got to see. You have to imagine and remember that this is a country with geographical size a third the size of the United States, but with a population more than 4 times as large. So it's a staggering experience just to be there and to make your way through some of these enormous cities. There's a lot that I'll continue to think about and mull over, I know, for weeks and months ahead. My brain is going to continue rolling around all of the things that I heard and tasted and smelled and saw. My memories of my time there are so vivid. It's like the memories of my time in India were filmed in a different sort of color palette than those that are formed here in the United States. The experiences there that I had were so visually striking. The vastness and desperation of the slums on the one hand, the nearly electric colors of the women's scarves as they walked through the streets. I remember a pair of railroad porters wearing matching crimson turbans and heroically bushy mustaches. I remember catching a glimpse of a group of street kids playing cricket in a muddy field while their mother, wearing a sari the color of fresh butter, stacked discs of dried cow dung into sturdy pyramids as tall as a grown man. There was so much I saw, so much to process and so much to absorb, but of course for me, personally, the most powerful learning that I did was the learning that I did about India's Jews, which was the reason that I went to India in the first place. Our group spent time in 8 or 10 synagogues while we were there, some of them still functioning, others now beautiful and elaborate, empty artifacts of a community that was, all of them facing west toward Jerusalem, where so many of the Indian Jewish community had gone on to fulfill their Zionist yearnings. In a lot of ways, Jewish India is the perfect case study for the Zionist enterprise. These Jews, some of whom trace their roots in India back to the 2nd century before the Common Era, spent millennia working successfully as traders and merchants, living peacefully alongside their Hindu and Muslim neighbors, moving to the Holy Land when they were able to do so safely and prosperously. And we saw firsthand the way the strong bond between India and Israel remains firm. We happened to be there by coincidence when Prime Minister Netanyahu visited India, and the enthusiasm across the country was remarkable. Indian attitudes toward Israel and towards Jews remained very, very positive, which is even more interesting when you remember that Jews in India make up approximately 0.00004% of the population. So, in some ways, what I saw there was a portrait of the triumph and the tragedy of diaspora Jewish life. Our Torah portion this week talks about God's desire to bring the Israelites home on wings of eagles. It's a beautiful image, but it belies the difficulty and struggle that comes along with wandering in the wilderness in far-flung locales. So my time in India was inspiring and heartbreaking in equal measures, engaging with the Jewish population in a country where Jewish residents are a fraction of what they once were, and still continuing to drop. The experiences there caused me to reflect anew about what it means to be at home, which always has meant something unique for us Jews. Home means familiarity and safety, Home means not needing to disguise or cover over the deepest and truest parts of yourself. One of the things that I learned there was the way in which a community can be at home in its own neighborhood, but still live with a certain existential anxiety. One of the nights we were there was Friday evening, so we spent Shabbat at a synagogue in Delhi. We're led around by a man whose custom it is to lead the Shabbat prayers for the community, but he's one of only 5 or 10 families remaining. He turned to us when describing Jewish life in Delhi, and he said, "Here, we're a drop in the ocean." That's a sensation that I think most American Jews can relate to. But to be a drop in the ocean in Houston is very different indeed than to be a drop in an ocean of 1.25 billion souls. In many ways, the story of the Indian Jewish community is a story of great Jewish success, one that has few parallels elsewhere in the world. There's virtually zero anti-Semitism, strong integration into the surrounding community while still remaining strongly bound to their traditions and practices, a strong sense of Zionism and global Jewish peoplehood, which drew them to continue looking toward Jerusalem year after year for the ingathering of their people. But that Jewish success story didn't come without its own costs and losses. The last memory that I want to share with you is one that came from one of the days we were staying in Cochin, the coastal city that was the historic capital of the spice trade for centuries and which formed the core of Jewish India. We paid a visit to an amazing synagogue whose name I need to keep practicing, Kadavumbagam. I think that's Kadavumbagam Synagogue. I wish I could have brought you all with me because it was like a scene out of a movie. You walk down the center of a busy street in the center of a bustling, loud, crowded market, overflowing from all sides with smells and colors and sounds and so many people. You pause at a white gate that leads you to a storefront set back from the road. You walk inside and you find yourself in a store that sells fish. I mean, not for eating. The whole place is filled with aquariums, stacked 8 high, crammed in every corner and every flat surface, filled with fish that are orange and blue and electric yellow and feathery white. Fish everywhere. And the sound of bubbling air filters that's normally so quiet, multiplied 1,000 times into a weird, deafening hum. And then you weave through the maze of aquariums and come to a wooden door in the back that creaks as you push it open and walk into the sanctuary. With gorgeous wooden pews and elaborate inlays in the ceiling and an ark made of teak that seems to glow as it towers majestically over the whole room. And inside the ark is nothing. We were met there by an older man named Eliyahu, but who everyone calls Babu. Babu shared his memories with us of growing up in that synagogue, being a part of that congregation as a child. He told us stories about people filling that sanctuary, the sound of their prayers rising to heaven and spilling out into the courtyard behind the synagogue. He told us how much he loved to sneak out of services to play with his friends underneath the coconut trees and back, and he would cry when his grandmother dragged him back in so that she could sit him next to her and teach him Torah. And today, he said, today he still cries, but now it's because there's no one left to teach him Torah. Everyone else is gone. So that image of that empty ark in a gorgeous synagogue, filled only with memories and the whispers of vanished song, talks to me so much, so strongly about what it is to be a Jew, what it is to be in a congregation that is at once your home and a place that you feel somewhat foreign. But it reminds us also about what it is that keeps Jewish community alive. It is the degree to which we place at our center the value of Torah and learning and growth. It's the value we place on multi-generational community where the young can learn from the old and vice versa as well. It's the degree to which we take seriously our obligation to each other, to celebrate with the bar mitzvah and to comfort those who are in mourning. And it speaks to us about the way in which a thriving diaspora gives strength to the Jewish home in Israel, and the way in which we here gain strength from that home as well. The trip gave me countless memories and many more short stories to share that I hope to save for other times when we're together. But I came back to you with a new appreciation for the richness of the Jewish people. I came back to you with a renewed sense of awe at the places that Jews live and have lived. And I come back with an unbelievable appreciation for the staggering variety of global Jewish life all around the world. And I come back to you knowing with gratitude how good it feels to be home. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.